Cool. So, Blessing, thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate that. And it's great to finally meet you as well. As I said, it feels like I kind of know you, but this is the first time we've
Yeah.
actually met. So, yeah, welcome on to the Diverse podcast. Can't wait to do this. So, first of all, congratulations on getting your job.
Thank you.
No problem.
It was quite a journey.
Yeah. So tell everyone, about what you're going to be doing. What is the role? Where you're going to be working? Let's jump straight in.
So I landed a role as a quantitative support executive with a marketing research agency based in London, and they're called Basis Research. And so my role is basically to help their quantitative research department. So with questionnaire scripting and just checking the survey links, and also working with data analysis, and also helping them to chart reports that they will be reporting back to clients, and just working on the charting the data for that. And I'm trying to think of what else I need to say. Oh yeah, and it's also based in London. So I would be relocating since I currently live in Cardiff. And so the process for that was basically, I actually found it on LinkedIn. So and because they were one of the, so what I'd initially done was in my undergrad, so my undergrad was in psychology. So I wasn't really that interested in the conventional psychology career paths. So so in one of our career sessions that they usually do, they just briefly mentioned marketing research. So I kind of had to just look into it more myself, and to figure out what kind of experiences I needed, and also the skills I needed to work on. And so that was what and this was around second year. So in first year I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. So this isn't second year. So it gave me about 2 years of uni to just work on my CV, and just figure out what skills I needed, and how I can put myself in the best position I can once I finished. So I forgot what the point I was going to say now.
No, I mean, so it sounds like it really links nicely to your degree, right, with the psychology.
Yeah.
So as I understand it, as an agency, they help big brands like Google, Facebook, BBC, or in doing their kind of market research and getting insights from customers. So the psychology element kind of plays in, which is quite cool, I think.
Yeah, so I'm also actually currently doing my master's in marketing, so I kind of have to balance both. But yeah, so that way I can actually kind of transfer what because I recently did a module in marketing research. So whatever I'm learning in my master's, I'm also kind of transferring to my job. And oh yeah, so what I was going to talk about was the process of the job interview. So so the application was basically a 300-word cover letter, including my CV. And then I got an email from the senior director that they wanted to interview me. So the first round of the interview, it was just him, and it was just the general interview questions, telling them about myself, and why I wanted to work on the role, and just the general interview questions. And then so it was that same interview that he offered me for a second interview, which was basically a week after that one. And that one was to basically meet the team that I would be working with. So that would be so that was someone from the quantitative department, and also another senior director. And so that interview was also it was also the same thing as my first one. So they just wanted to get some general idea of what I'm doing and what I'm interested in, and why I want to work in marketing research. So yeah, and then there was a week later. So they were pretty consistent with how quickly they got back to me, which was actually very nice compared to other interviews I had. And then they just emailed me back with a job offer, so that was really good. And actually the position is it's actually a new department that they're creating, so they hired 2 of us, and so they're planning on hiring more people later on. But yeah, so it's really exciting that it's like being one of the first on a new team that they're making. So yeah, that was really interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that is super cool. It sounds like a really cool agency, and yeah, it's always great to be part of a new team because it's not like they've got all these sort of set processes. You know, they're going to be able to come up with new things and work on exciting projects. So that sounds incredible. But I've definitely got some follow-up questions on kind of like the application process, how you found it, any tips you've got. But before we get into that, how about beforehand? So talk to me about some of the challenges that you kind of faced trying to get a role during the pandemic and balancing that with your studies. What was that like?
So initially, like the first, so I graduated from undergrad last July. So the pandemic was already like on its way. Yeah. And so by then, so my initial plan was my master's was supposed to be in Birkbeck in London. So I was, so by the time that I was finishing my undergrad, I wanted to find a full-time job that I can work alongside my master's since the lectures were going to be in the evening. So by then, so I wasn't really like that successful in that time getting a job. So I ended up having to like just move back to Cardiff and just do my master's here. And I think it was at that point, like applying for a job at that time was very difficult because obviously there was a lot of unemployment. The unemployment rate was going up. And I think at that time it was very like, it wasn't encouraging at all. And at that point, I was just like, wow, I think it might actually take me a few years, like after this settles, before I can actually find a job. So I wasn't really like in the best place to think that, oh, like I could actually find a job anytime soon. So at that point, I kind of just accepted it, like, okay, a job's not going to happen anytime soon. So I just decided, okay, I'll just focus on my master's instead. And so when I moved back home, and my course started, and I kind of just like mostly focused on that, from which I started in November. And but then and so in that time I kind of like just worked on my CV and did some and then I did some like different I forgot, different courses to kind of like just like build up on my skills, and yeah, they were like relevant to what I wanted to do later on. And so
like free online courses or like free like Google courses? So, what type of courses?
Yeah, I did. So I did the Google digital marketing course, and that one was just to obviously prepare me for before I started my master's. So that's what I did over the summer. And then I also did some Excel ones on LinkedIn. And I kind of also made a start on, well, that one was more recently, but I kind of made a start on like learning Python as well. Because I think what I did was, even though I was discouraged from the fact that like the job market was looking a bit tragic at that time. So I thought, okay, I have a lot of time, so I can kind of like, so what I did was kind of, I looked at different job ads that were related to jobs that I would like to apply for later on, and just try to kind of look at like what skills, and with jobs in market research, you are required to know about different software tools. So I think what I did at that time was I just look on LinkedIn and just like kind of look at different job ads, and just to see like what softwares that different agencies were using and which ones are like up there. So I just decided, and then I decided to kind of like to try to learn the basics of Python as well for data analysis. So that was the other one that I worked on. And so by December, I kind of started to reach out to different market research agencies, because a lot of them on their website, they kind of make it known that they're welcome to people just like sending in their CVs, and so that when they're ready to like start recruiting people, then they usually, I mean, some sent out emails to let me know that they were recruiting, but others I ended up finding out like on LinkedIn by coincidence. So yeah, what I did was I did send out my CV and a cover letter which was like tailored to different agencies that I had in mind. So I created an Excel spreadsheet to kind of like keep track of if I heard back from anyone, or if no one got back to me. And I did the same thing when I started applying for jobs in January as well. So I think it was kind of like I kind of noticed that I wasn't really like getting anywhere with just sending my CV. So I just decided to start applying in January. And I think what motivated me to do that was mostly because, well, my master's course, I was having a lot of a lot of spare time. So I thought, I think I'd rather be getting some like professional experience on the side as well, rather than like just waiting for my course to start and end. And yeah. And I started sending out applications in January, and yeah, and then I kind of started getting like quite a lot of interviews, or like quite a lot of feedbacks, or like to schedule an interview. So I think
And
with
Blessing, do you
that
think that
was,
was specifically kind of off the back of the extra things that you were doing? So it kind of wasn't working beforehand when you were kind of just sending your CV a few different places, but once you did the courses, once you did the Python, because you could see that was relevant
yeah,
to the job description,
yeah, I
then
would
you were
say
hearing callback.
it's very helpful because coming back to like the company I currently work for, with them, I noticed that they actually looked through my CV and spotted the things that I was doing. But with other companies that I interviewed with, I wouldn't really say, maybe they did notice and just didn't like mention it, but I didn't feel like they mentioned anything on there other than like the work experiences that I had in the past and my degree. But I didn't really see with the current, when I interviewed for the current company that I got the job with, they so for example, with the Python that I was learning, which I'm still planning on working on, they kind of like pointed that out and no one else had. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think it kind of encourages you to think, oh, okay, like eventually, like they know that I'm working on this skill and it could eventually be useful for them in the future, or even if it's like with another company as well. So I think, yeah, it can be very helpful to kind of like use up your time to like to learn about different skills. And this could not, I mean, it doesn't have to be like relevant to what you want to do, but it can just be like something that you do when you end up learning that, oh, this would be more interesting to me than what I had in mind before. So I think it can be very useful to kind of do some extra courses on the side. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so and do the Google Digital Garage as well. That I actually did that course as well, and I found that super useful. So I'd recommend people check that out. And obviously everything is free on there. Yeah, that's a really good course. So all right, so shameless plug for our platform then. What did you find helpful on that in terms of our resources? Did anything that we have sort of helped you in the interview process or the application that other people can benefit from, do you think?
Yeah, it was because I remember I reached out to you that I was applying when I started applying for like graduate schemes, and I think what I struggled with the most was because I'd used my undergrad to like kind of like build up on like getting relevant experiences that will help me later on, and like we mentioned earlier with the courses as well. But I think for me, I really lack the confidence, like knowing that I have the right skills to do the right job, and also like being able to talk about myself confidently that I can do the job. And I think I think it was actually like a good timing that you reached out to me about like if eventually like when I start applying, like when I needed the help with like interviews. And then so what I mainly used was the interview resources that was available on the website. And so what I did was I just went through the slides, and so I just looked at how like different ways, just like first I looked through like how I can answer the questions, and then it kind of like clicked to me, oh, that's how you're supposed to answer these interview questions. Because like years before, I always knew I was like bad at interviews, but I just could never like figure out like how to work on it and how to improve like my interview skills. So and then what I did after that was so basically I kind of like just with general questions, so I created like a Word document, and then with general questions, so I kind of like wrote out my own answers. And yeah, and then that's what I did with like the general interview questions, and I just wrote out my own answers and like how I would answer those questions relevant to like the industry I wanted to work in. And I think the good thing about everything being online at the moment, for me anyway, was because I could kind of like figure out with having video interviews, like I could kind of have my notes open. So the Word document I created, I had that open on the side, so then it could kind of like help me like with what I'm saying, rather than like just sitting there and stuttering if it was like a physical interview. And so with that Word document, actually what I did was, so in February I had about six interviews. So and I didn't really go into each one thinking, oh, I might get the job. I kind of like, in the end, I was just like, okay, even if I don't get the job, at least this will help me with my interview skills. And I know that later on, even if it's like, even if the right job comes along after I finish my course, at least like now I'm kind of like familiar with the interview process with like graduate schemes within that industry. And so what I did was like, so I kind of like tried to pay attention to the different questions that weren't the same as like the generalized like interview questions. So I'd add that to my Word document and then kind of like come up with answers afterwards. Even if sometimes I knew the interview didn't go well, but I was always like motivated to like just kind of like point out the different interview questions I might have struggled with or like struggled with answering. And then so I would add that to the document and kind of like just write out an answer. And so then I knew that if I was to get another interview and that question comes up, then at least I know that, oh, I've come across that before and I know how to like put myself across and then just answer the question. So yeah, I think it was really, yeah, the interview resource, it was really helpful actually. And I think another thing that was helpful is, I think the first time we talked, like I was telling you about how I wasn't really that good with interviews. And then you replied saying that, oh, that when they offer you an interview, it's already that they're confident and they want to know more about you, and they're already like interested in you being taken on for this role. And I never really thought about it like that, because I was just thought if they offer you an interview, it's just because they just want to know. And I never really thought like, oh, they could actually be interested. It's because, oh, they're already interested in what you have to offer. So I think that hearing that from you was like really encouraging. And then along with like the resources, I could kind of go into interviews more confident and just kind of know that like, okay, it's like just do my best at it and just know that like over time I'll be improving, and that all it takes is like that one company just to see like, oh yeah, we want to give her a chance, and in the end that's really all it takes. The other ones who rejected,
one job.
Exactly. The other ones who rejected, they didn't really matter at the end of the day when you get the right one that's for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about sort of,
I think in the end
take it personally
as well, like you kind of like once the right one comes along, you kind of like think back to yourself, oh, I don't even know why I was like stressing so much or thinking so much about why this company rejected me, why this company rejected me. But I think the thing with rejection is that like obviously it's easier said than done, that like, oh, don't think too much about it, because even for me, like even after like getting some encouragement from you and like people around me as well, like it's still, you still kind of like, even though you're confident that oh, I have the right skills and it's just about like putting myself across as that confident person, like there's still always that mind in the back of your head that like, oh, it's because I got this rejection because I'm not good enough. But I feel like you kind of have to like just push through that thought and just think, okay, I do have the ability to do this job if I was offered it, so I should just sell myself and that I'm capable of doing the job. But
absolutely. No, you need to separate your sort of personal value and how you perceive yourself to your skill set and the fit for the role. Just because you didn't get it, it doesn't reflect anything badly on you. And I think sometimes we forget there's so many other candidates with maybe a similar background that are going for these same roles. And in some cases, they might just be a much better fit than you. So it's hard, but you kind of can't really take that personally. And I appreciate you mentioning the resources, and I hope other people can get value from those, because that really allows you to practice beforehand. So there's no reason we should be going in cold. It's like you wouldn't try and do your driving test for the first time without practicing. Do you know what I mean? So why do we not like literally, go through and practice? So if anyone wants to get hold of that, they can find that on wearediverse.io. Go over to the interactive interview guide and download that, and you can hear my annoying voice asking loads of questions, and you can answer out loud or make notes on the Word document as you did. And I think, I think that really just gives you that confidence and helps you prepare well.
It was,
and then the other thing you mentioned was literally once they invite you to a final round interview, they want you, you know, they've seen your background and they know you can do the job. Now it's just a case of you showing your personality and, you know, building some rapport with the interviewer and showing that you're a good fit. It's kind of like, you know, once we get to the last 5 people or whatever, the CVs are almost out the window. We don't really care where you went to uni or kind of your background at that point. We just want to hear from you. So I think that's super important. So I'm glad you feel more confident off the back of that, because I think confidence is what a lot of people are struggling with right now.
It can be really hard to like just find the confidence to, especially with the job market at the moment. It disencourages you to kind of like just not really care about it, because in the end you're like, oh, it's not, there's probably like other people that are better than me out there. But I think it's always worth going into like any job interview or like just like sending any job application with like the confidence that like, oh, I could do this if it was offered to me. So I should just go into it with confidence.
Absolutely. And have you got any other tips or bits of wisdom on, you know, it could be the CV or the cover letter you mentioned? Obviously, you have to do a cover letter, or anything in the interview process that you want to share with the network?
With the CVs, I'd say, especially for people who are still at uni, definitely make use of like the career sessions that your university offers. Because for me, by going to those sessions, and I know that most of them are probably online at the moment, but those sessions can be really helpful. And it might not mean that you have like a really great CV like on the spot, but going to the sessions continuously can help to like just build up like your CV, so that it's like in a good place by the time you finish or something like that. Yeah. And also using the resources from Diverse will help you as well.
Thanks so much. How about your cover letter then? Did you do anything out of the ordinary there? I think from my perspective with cover letters, employers want to see something that's really specific to them in the role. I think they just really dislike generic CVs, because cover letters rather, because it doesn't convey your like passion and that you really want that opportunity. So any advice on how to do cover letters as well?
When I was writing my cover letter, because it actually took me a while to write. I didn't have a cover letter until last December, where I literally had to force myself to write one. But and what I did was basically, because with marketing research, I feel like you can kind of they usually, with the job ad, you can usually they usually ask for the same thing regardless of like which company it is. So what I did was kind of like was to look up different job ads for different market research agencies and kind of just point out what skills they'd be looking for, and just try to make sure that was in my CV, and that my cover letter, and that it reflects that. And what I'd say is, because what I did to write my cover letter was just look at just a quick search on Google to like just look up different ones relevant to like the industry you want to work in, and just kind of like see just to see like examples of like different ones out there. And it might take like a few days before, sorry for the noise.
No worries, it's very authentic. It's like a live podcast. I like it.
It might take like a few attempts to like get the right cover letter, but I think it's worth just looking at examples and kind of like just coming up with different drafts of it. And you can just reach out to, maybe it's like people around you or Diverse, or like maybe your career advisors in uni, and they could help you like take a look at it and just to like go through it, because that's what I did. I sent it to one of my family friends, and they helped me to like go through it and just to like see where I could change up things. And I think that really helped me to like just get to write the best cover letter that I could.
Brilliant. No, that's really, really good. And I've got a couple of questions that hopefully should help employers actually, and help employers, you know, help candidates a bit more. I think two things they're sort of really trying to focus in on. One, how do you sort of go about making a decision about where to apply and which companies and brands you want to go with? So I guess what were you looking for when you were trying to make your application decisions? Because that might also help students who are wondering where to apply. But also, and then the second question is like, how could they do a better job of kind of helping you through application processes and improving there? So yeah, two-part question: how do you decide on where to apply, and then what can employers do to make that process easier?
So for me, when I was applying, the company I was looking for was like obviously a company where like eventually I will be able to like progress in the role, and also that they'll be willing to like allow me to learn and develop myself whilst working the job. So I think that was something that was very important to me, as well as obviously knowing that I will feel comfortable when working with a company. And so that means obviously them being or diverse or working towards diversity and inclusion. So that was something that was very important to me. And in terms of how they can make applications easier, I'm not too sure on that one, but I would say that it will probably be the feedback area. Like a lot of them, and I know that it's probably down to they get a lot of applicants, so it's very hard to like provide feedback. But I think if there really is a short list, or this could just be at the end of interviews, that they could provide like a small feedback to those who attend interviews, and just to let them know, oh, they did well on this, or they could improve on this. And even if like later on they get back to them and they want to offer them a job or something. But I think it's still worthwhile to like give people feedback on how they did in an interview, because I think once, especially for me, like once you go off from an interview, you kind of start to think, oh, I did really badly answering this question, and they probably thought of me this way. So I think giving instant feedback would be very helpful to some people to kind of know how they did and what else they could work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the diversity and the inclusion element that you mentioned there, how did you identify that though? Because I think the challenge is now, especially with everything that's happened last year, is that all companies kind of saying that they've got they're diverse and they're inclusive, everyone's got a statement, and it's not very authentic. So how do you get through the weeds on that and see, what was it that they did that made you feel it was inclusive and diverse and so on?
Honestly, I can't really say that I can tell that from any company. I feel like you can't really tell how a company how well they do on that until you actually work for them. So I feel like sometimes I kind of have to go in with without knowing anything, just hope for the best. But yeah, I think that was something that I'd say is very hard to kind of figure out, because even if you can just tell on like social accounts, that's not something you can like kind of say, oh, they do really well on this part, so this is why I want to work for them, when it comes to diversity and inclusion anyway. But yeah, I think it's something that's very difficult to kind of like pinpoint just looking from like face value that, oh, they wrote this online, so they must be this. Yes, it's kind of very difficult to kind of, so I think in the end, I wasn't trying to like think too much about that, and just kind of thought, okay, so long as I feel comfortable working in this workplace, then I think that will be okay for me.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's super difficult. And what I want to do is aim to make that more simple for candidates. So, I'm actively going out to employers that are, winning awards for inclusion, and hearing from people that have actually worked there to sort of say that it is an inclusive environment. And those are the companies that I work with. And the ones that come to me are the ones that are willing to like invest in this and are committed. Otherwise, they wouldn't be, the companies that are truly not interested in that at all, they won't be sort of advertising on my job board. So I hope that I can help with that to some extent. And then, I guess just to sort of wrap up, and thanks so much for joining. This has been really good. I think you're definitely going to help some people with this. And big congrats to you for getting your job. It sounds like a fantastic company as well. So I hope you're really enjoying it. But I guess, any sort of final words to close us out? Anything else that we haven't covered, or any words of wisdom that you want to share with the audience?
I think the only last thing I'm going to say is to try your best when you're at uni to like get some experience, and that doesn't have to be like relevant to what you want to do, but okay, it can help you to figure out what you'd like to do later on. And my last word is you have more power than you think you do. So it's always good to be confident, or try to be confident, because it's very easy to like just say be confident in yourself. But yeah, you do have more power than you think you might do. So try to be more confident in yourself and your abilities. That's what I say.
I like it. Okay, I'm gonna put that on the t-shirt. You got more power than you think you do. That's an Instagram post right there. Perfect. So no, thanks so much. I hope everyone has enjoyed this at home, all the many listeners and viewers. But you can find us on Google, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. It's the Diverse Podcast. On YouTube, it's We Are Diverse. Same on Instagram, or head over to wearediverse.io for all of those career resources. You can find opportunities with inclusive employers, and you can find successful CV examples. We might add yours to that, Blessing, who knows. Our interactive interview guide, and many more resources to kind of help you out in your early career. So if you're looking for grad schemes, entry-level roles, placements, internships, whatever it is, then we can hopefully help you with that. But thanks so much, Blessing. This has been fantastic. Really do appreciate it.
I hope that's been helpful.
No problem. Congrats again, and all the best. Hopefully we can hear from you again.
Thank you.